Live streaming is on.
Hello, world. My name is Jerry Fielka. It's March 14, 2021. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Clint Ignatoff,
Can you take me to the
facilitating.
Hunt Club? Is that cool? Or do you want him to let me up here?
He's got
Yeah,
a turn off. Okay, Clinton, turn off. Clinton, you're
Okay,
good.
hi guys. You're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Look at that. Whoa, he froze. Oh, no, he's still there. Okay, you're off auditorially. Okay, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Chris Opperman. Is that, how do you pronounce your last name?
Opperman, that's right. You got it right.
God, I got it right. Chris Opperman. And you go, you want to be called Chris or Christopher?
Chris is fine. Most people these days call me professor. So
Professor Chris. All right. Okay, Chris. First question, what's the best thing for a human being?
Oxygen.
Nice. What is your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
Self-reflection. I mean, it depends on your definition of information. I don't really think that people spouting conspiracy theories on Facebook is information.
Okay, so that is self-reflection is pretty intense. We're going to get into that. I never had that answer. Okay, so why do you think humans collect or gather information?
I think oftentimes because they're trying to corroborate a worldview that may be diluted, but they're trying to corroborate their specific worldview with outside information.
Is that like seeking consensus, or what is collaborate? Flesh out, what do you mean by collaborate?
Well, I mean, I think we're becoming an increasingly polarized society. So I think that a lot of the information people get are just trying to by corroborate, I mean to trying to prove their point of view.
Right. You know, Lily Tomlin says this, see if this matches. She goes, reality's just a collective hunch.
That's great. I love it.
That's sort of what you think that's why they do it. We're just trying to get collectiveness. Commonality is another word. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but I do think the collective unconscious is real. So I do think that you can get good information. You just need to be able to parse the bad information from the good information.
Wait, you got to go back. That came too fast. You do think the collective unconscious is what?
Real.
Real. Yes. Okay. So do you think this need or want to collect information is innate, is more innate or more invented by humans?
I think more invented. I think it's very different now than it was 100 years ago.
Amazing. So you must have ESP because you anticipate next question. Does the brain, you got ESP, you think?
I don't know.
No, like Emo Phillips says, if you're telepathic, raise my hand. Okay. Does the brain more detect or more create consciousness?
That's such a great question. I think it creates consciousness.
We actually create it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Simon Prentice, the great Zappa person, said, I'll interject it because it's sort of like, does rust feel?
Oh. I don't know. I mean, it feels like something, but does it feel? I don't know.
Yeah, that's all right. Do thoughts create emotions?
Yes. But emotions also create, no, that's both directions. I think emotions also create thoughts.
Yeah, it's both ways. And you know, my either or questions are just jumping off points because it's stupid to go more this or more that. And it depends and all that. But It's funny because one of my favorite was the guy who played keyboards for Blue Cheer. Really great publisher, V Vale. He publishes research magazine in San Francisco. I says, "Do thoughts create emotions?" He goes, "Emotions create emotions." That's a good answer. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Speed of thought. Well, we don't know. We don't know because we never tried to send a thought to the sun.
Yeah.
So until we send a thought to the sun, we won't know the answer for real.
Yeah. Chris, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. Thank you.
Great. I love this so far. This is the best.
So Audre Lorde, the poet, says you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rayner responded, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest? And it can be in relation to the quotes or not.
The new tool I suggest is there's an internet database where you can find pieces by female composers and people of color, and I suggest you use that tool to understand that music is not only created by white men.
That is great. What an internet base to find female and composers and color of color.
Yeah, I'll find it. I think it's called the Internet Diversity Composer Database. Hold on, I'll find out in a second.
Yeah. Internet Diversity
Institute for Composer Diversity. That's what it is.
What's the first word?
Institute
for
Composer Diversity.
Composer Diversity. Really good. Thank you.
I found so much cool stuff just checking out that website.
That is really cool. Yeah, we're going to get into Frank quoting Pauline Oliveros.
Oh, hello. What?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Or no. There's some. Anyways, we'll get to that. But let's carry on here. Okay, with the script at hand. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Nothing.
Oh, that is a great answer. Nothing is what I want. Okay. So Marshall McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting the hidden psychic effects of what we invent so that we can learn to cope with these things we don't like about our inventions. So McLuhan says, hey, we can look to the artists. They'll reveal these hidden psychic effects, but we still ignore them. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects, even though we can turn to the artists and musicians to reveal them?
I don't know the answer to that question.
That's all right. You got to realize, Chris, saying I don't know or pass is totally valid. Saying I don't know is really good. Okay. Are you more afraid of old ideas or more afraid of new ideas?
I'm more afraid of old ideas.
What do you think? Human beings are more feeling beings or more thinking beings? I know it depends, and it's, you know.
I think it's easily feeling because your feelings can totally override your logic. And we've seen that over and over again.
Yeah. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever?
Sure, my mom gave me an apple when I was a little boy. I must have been 2 or 3.
Do you think memory is more a curse or more a blessing?
If you've if you try to be a good person in your life, probably more of a blessing.
Wow. Tell me an early role model within your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that? Just briefly. And then it's going to be outside your immediate family. So within your immediate family.
Okay. I would say my mom. My mom worked to try to help the United Nations bring world peace. And that was a great way to spend your life, I think.
Wow. So
you
talked
a lot about spending your time well. That was something I got a lot as a child. But you have to decide how you're going to spend your time. You have to spend it wisely because you have a limited amount of it.
Wow, that is good. Now, outside your immediate family, someone who made an impact on you.
My band director, Mr. Morgan, when I was in high school, Bob Morgan. He taught at the Clifton Public Schools for 43 years, and we had rehearsal, 6 to 7 days a week. We did a different gig every week with a brand new show that we memorized. And it was like, I didn't realize that most high school programs were not this intense. But his was really intense. That intensity, I think, helped me a lot as a young musician.
Wow, that is cool. And so he sort of helped you learn a work ethic, or what?
Yep,
What was the main thing from him? Work ethic?
definitely work ethic. Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. If you want to be a good musician, you had to work hard.
Yeah.
Which was, most of the TV shows like, no, man, just do some drugs, man, you'll be great. And
Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
I was raised as a Roman Catholic, even though neither parent practiced. So I'm not sure why they did that.
Wow, because that's funny. You use the word practice. Someone says, "Are you still practicing?" Is the next question. Did you check out at a certain period, or did you ever check
Yeah, when
in?
I was 15 or 16, I couldn't get an acceptable answer why hell should exist, and that was the end for me.
Wow. So, do you pray?
Um, I'm not a very bad Buddhist, so wouldn't really call myself that, but I definitely meditate and think
Yeah.
and try to put positive energy out.
Yeah. If God exists, Chris, what would you want God to say to you after you die?
Attaboy.
I like that. Chris, do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Well, I think if you were born the exact time and space as Saddam Hussein and had the same life experiences he did, that you would be Saddam Hussein.
Right. So you think we're all capable of evil?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And this one I'm going to set up with a few modern thinkers' thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. Fellini says, I need an enemy. And Chinese proverb goes, he who cannot agree with their enemy is controlled by them. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you react specifically to the first one? Alan Watts, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I think that's a true statement. What I tell my students, I'd say, may all your enemies be strong.
May all
Your enemies be strong. If you're gonna have an enemy, let it be someone worthy of being your enemy.
May all enemies be strong. Who
Your
said?
enemies.
Oh, may all your enemies be strong.
Yeah.
You're sort of wishing them strength so that it will in turn help you.
Right. Nietzsche said, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." So it stands to reason if you have really good enemies, you'll become more powerful.
Yeah, that's what Nietzsche says. But who said that may all your enemies be strong? You know who said that?
I don't know where I got that from.
That is a good one. I need that one.
It's yours now.
Yeah. I'll never forget what's his name. That's what I always say. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin over 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
I mean, just today I was wondering why I should write stories about philosophy when people could just read a philosophy book, but they'll never do it. So you got to get it in there somehow.
So it's a way to get it in people. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of fictions are bad. I mean, I would be really wary of, fictions that present life situations that make no sense. are making more diluted by believing in the fantasy of the story. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, but it's challenging because that's what fantasy is. It's like, why do we have to have fantasy is more like, and then why do we have to have aesthetics? So what you're saying, yeah, it's sort of a combo burrito you're talking about, because it's tackling who's making the judgments if it's good or bad, and then who's saying your fantasy went a little too long. I'll tell you an example is kid who did really gross cartoons in Florida, and a judge, he was sent to court. You can't do your cartoons anymore, and the judge sent him to jail and screwed his life up. Or
Wow,
it's in America,
that's
this is
that's
it,
unconstitutional.
yeah, it's unconstitutional, but it happens. So it is like how it's this whole idea of how do we form aesthetics, like John Waters rooted for the Wicked Witch in Wizard of Oz. Everybody else, look, he grew up and made 30 pretty good films, or okay films, and he's a successful artist. But who is to say, oh, well, you're rooting for the wrong person,
I mean, there's a lot of fictions where you're probably rooting for the wrong person.
Right.
Right? Like everything is fine. This person comes along, everything is not fine.
Yeah. Well, that's
one thing I was with Frank Zappa was about how a lot of his how do I want to say this? A lot of his fictions were based in things that really happened.
right.
Are like a lot of like the way he would like make these grandiose statements about things. They're about like mundane things that happen in real life. They're not about like Luke Skywalker. You know what I mean? Like,
No, that's a good example, because he said, I want my titties and I want my beers. He's not saying him, not really. He's
right.
saying that there's a mentality of people who want this. Now, is it good or bad? Well, it's up to you to decide, because everybody would chant along saying this is him promoting that. But you become what you behold. So he is liable for what he's cheering on, but being a satirist, he can get away with it because he's saying, I'm just making fun of it.
I mean, on Letterman, he said, "Do you know how many times you have to sing titties and beer to get the London Symphony Orchestra to be able to hire them?"
I love on Letterman where he goes, I don't have any brown lipstick in my makeup set. That is like, whoa. In the green room, they ran out. I says, okay, that's all right. I don't use it anyways. Well, I'm sure we'll dabble in Frank more, but we're here for you, Chris. And thanks a lot. This is fun. Okay, so what first attracted you to pursue? I mean, you sort of brought it up with Bob Morgan, but what first attracted to you to say, well, I can be a musician and I can be a composer? Like, walk us through that. Like, what point are you writing your first songs? And what point are you actually going, hey, mom and dad, did the parents go, you got to take lessons? Walk us through the through line of how you got into music.
Okay, when we moved into my house that I grew up in Clifton, there was a grand piano, an old one, a dilapidated one in the living room, and they left it. And so I just started playing, and my parents got me lessons for my 8th birthday. So I was dabbling in it, and then my 8th birthday I started lessons. And then it just kind of stuck. But it was one of those things, like every time I tried to like, I don't know, I would get less interested. Something would bring me back. Does it make sense? Like just some kind of like happenstance that happened, I would come back to it. As far as wanting to be a composer, I was on a trip with the band in Quebec in 1995, and I got Civilization Phase 3, and I heard it for the first time, and I said, that's what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I'm going to write music. I heard Put a Motor in Yourself, and it was game over.
That is amazing. So what Zap album did you start with?
Zappa's Universe.
You started with Zappa's Universe?
Yeah, I had a trumpet lesson, and my trumpet teacher told me about Frank Zappa. He had the Zappa's Universe poster on his wall, and he told me about it. And I was like, who's this crazy guy who looks like a mad scientist writing music? And so I got the CD, the Zappa's Universe CD, and I was totally hooked.
That is amazing. what just off, we can't go too deep into Frank. We can do that another time on a Zoom, but tell me your 3 top Zappa albums for you, just personally, off the top of your head.
All right, Civilization Phase 3 is number 1. Chic or Booty is number 2. And Make a Jazz Noise Here is number 3. Those are the first 3 I thought of.
Good. So your screenwriting teacher told me that great art, great film, great composition is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great film, great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process?
Well, my latest album, Chair Music from Hell, my original thought was I wasn't going to tell anybody the story, like a Lynchian thing, where you get all the clues in the music, but you don't actually get to know what the actual story is or what's happening. And I went all the way in the other direction. So I wrote the libretto. You get all the details. You know, there's still some puzzles, but all the clues are there. They're very obvious clues. And I honestly think that helped me my project a lot by just being upfront with the audience instead of trying to play them. Just be like, here's my story, audience. Please enjoy the story that I have for you.
Wow. But that again, it almost anticipated the next question, which is Duchamp says there's no art without an audience. What role does the audience play when you're making your piece? So you were anticipating your audience's needs and you gave it to them.
Right.
Right. But
like any good business person would.
Like that's good. But Chris, what you go back to the first question, what role does intention play in your creative process? I mean, what you did was sort of answer the second question without hearing it. But go back to the first question. What role does intention play in your creative process when you're writing music? Like, why do you write music is more?
Well, I write music because I have to. Intention. I mean, a lot of times there are 2 ways that I write music. The first one is I'll start on the piano and I'll improvise, and then it'll start to take shape into something. And then the intention comes into play. I'm like, okay, now I'm intending to shape this in a certain direction, or I'm going in another place. Another way is that I work for my mind first, so the idea hits me first, and then I try to think pre-compositionally about how that's going to work out, and then I start to work it out.
Wow. So this is good. We're just delve right into music here for a second. So my friend Eddie has a theory, has 3 T's of music: theory, technique, and taste. They sort of match Dave Liedman's head, hand, and heart. So if head is theory, you can learn what these notes mean. Technique is your hand, you can play what you taste or heart. How do you learn taste?
How do you learn taste? I think you learn taste by imitating first, and then you find your path. Right? You learn other people's tastes first. Does that make sense? Like you learn a set of someone's norms, and then you kind of see how you feel about their aesthetic, and then you find your own aesthetic through that. Through the more repertoire you know, I think the better composer you're going to be.
Right, that's good. So if the greatest music critic in the world, according to you, wrote a review of your music, and he said, or this person, this writer said, Chris is a cross between who and who, what would you feel most honored?
Well, Frank Zappa for sure. And who? And who is a much tougher question because I feel like the second person is going to be a lot of people.
Well, you could do 3, say, if you had to do 3, Frank Zappa and 3 other.
Okay. Mike Keneally.
Okay.
And maybe Miles Davis.
Good. Nice. Which is more fundamental, language or music?
Language. Oh, let me think about that. Because all kinds of animals can sing and not speak. So I think actually I'm going to change my mind and say it's music.
Can we think without language?
Yes.
Did humans is thinking more invented or more innate?
Um, it must be innate. It must be innate because otherwise animals have no instincts.
Copeland has 4 elements or ingredients of music: melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. In layperson's terms, how do you describe what tone color is?
Well, I describe it as timbre. So I see 6 elements. There's timbre, melody, harmony, rhythm, text, are the lyrics, and growth, which is how the piece grows, how the piece stays interesting as it goes on. Right. So timbre is like a symphony orchestra has a specific timbre versus a rock band. Right. So when I'm teaching like a layperson, I'm going to try to talk about like big sounds. I mean, they're not going to recognize the bassoon, but they'll recognize that kind of woody orchestra sound. Does it make sense?
That's so applicable. We always flipping back to Frank because one of the greatest moments ever is in Baby Snakes when Frank's um, bodyguard says, "Well, I like orchestra music, and Frank can make a rock band sound like an orchestra."
Sure can. Sure could.
So that's the thing. Most people, you get the Moody Blues and they get an orchestra enhance their rock music. No, Frank could actually make a rock band sound like an orchestra.
Oh yeah, man, that bridge in Yo Mama when they do the sinister footwear stuff in the middle of the tune, and it's like, how is this band generating that sound? Like, wow.
Right. But going back, everybody says that. So before we go back to the Copeland thing, you're saying you agree melody, harmony, rhythm, tone, color, and you would add text as a 5th
Yep,
element?
text, lyrics. Yep, because word painting is such a huge part of composition. Whether we're doing word painting or reverse word painting, or when the vocals are present, that's always what Schoenberg would call the Hauptstimme, right, or the in front part. Right. So no matter like how abstract my background might be, if I'm speaking to you, you're going to hear that as the primary line of the piece. Right. And the 6th one
Wow.
is growth, how those things combine.
Oh, 6 is growth?
Right. So a piece, for it to be good, has, in my opinion, by the way, in order for it to be good, it has to grow somehow as it continues. So a lot of composers achieve growth either by focusing on different elements. So this part focuses on melody, this next part might focus on rhythm, or they kind of amp it up so you get a pretty melody, and here comes the B section that's even prettier, or they do like harmonic tricks or something. But it's got to have something to propel the piece forward, to keep the piece propelling forward, or it gets boring or stale.
So you're saying Copeland had 4, Chris has 6.
Yeah, but I was John LaRue is the person who invented style analysis, so I would say John LaRue would have 6. I would agree with him.
Oh, he brought in text and growth.
Yeah,
And just to be clear, 6 is growth. GROWTH.
that's correct.
Growth.
Correct.
But back to tone color. That's what everybody says timbre, but they don't say what timbre is. The normal person on the street doesn't know what tone color or timbre means. You sort of described it. You said it's like the difference between hearing a rock band and an orchestra.
Right. You can make any kind of observation, what we call small scale, middle scale, and large scale observations. So somebody who is new to this world, you can use large scale observations to help them understand what sound is. Right. So you hear a Britney Spears song, it has a certain sound, and if
Yeah.
you hear Eine kleine Nacht music, it has a certain sound. That would be the starting point.
I got you. And someone said it's the amount of overtones in the note. That's what timbre is.
That's way too complicated an explanation for a layperson.
Wow. What is an overtone?
An overtone, I mean, so the way to describe it is if you pluck a string, right, you can hear other notes other than the fundamental, which is the main pitch that you're hearing, right? So if, for instance, an octave is halfway down the string, so it makes sense. If I pluck a big string, you would hear not just the big string itself, but all the tiny mathematical ratios that are complementary to that string, right? So you wouldn't hear like a 13/16, but you might hear, the next octave or the next fifth, like, you know what I mean? Small fractions.
Is it called vibrations?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, you're good. You should be a music teacher. So this is good because I didn't know we'd get right into music so fast, but you really are a good teacher, Chris. You teach me a lot. So McLuhan said an interesting thing, and I'm just wondering, I'm not saying agree or disagree with it. He said, song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference.
I would say the second part of that is true. I would say the first part of it is if you're going to write a piece of music and you want it to be understood by people, then you want the melody to mimic speech as much as possible. So when I teach young composers about writing vocal music, I start them by having them recite a poem as if they were a Shakespearean actor, because you're going to have the natural inflection of your voice. They'll give you pitch information, right? So if I say, so low, middle, high, if I say, right? And then it can go down. But you're also getting rhythmic information because your voice is natural rhythm. So if you want the audience to understand you, you want to start with your first draft being pretty close to actual performance speech, not just we're casually talking. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. That's amazing. And here's in Bob Marshall's interview with Frank, he says, in an interview in the LA Free Press in '69, Frank Zappa mentioned Pauline Oliveri's work with sound, above the audible and below, creating a mass. And you like that idea. Frank said, not that it created a mass, it created something audible. It produced a some indifference tone, which happened to be located within the audible frequency range. By combining something so high you couldn't hear it and something so low you couldn't hear it, it yields something in the middle that you could hear. Whether or not you like what you hear in the middle is another question. The concept is brilliant. I mean, someone said, well, that's what air conditioning units do. There's a pitch so high and so low, then it's nice in the middle. I don't get that. What is Frank talking about? And how do you explain that Pauline Oliveris again in layperson's terms?
Well, so it's a frequency matter. So I think what they're getting at is that in that case, you are hearing overtones, right? But you're hearing the average of the sounds that are happening, right? Because you're registering the sound is happening, but you can't hear the too high, the too low pitches. So your brain might be just giving you pitch information. I'm not totally sure, but I think that's what it's getting at.
Pitch information is an interesting concept. So have you ever studied her, Pauline Oliveris deep listening?
I've heard of it, but I haven't gone too crazy. I mean, I have tons of friends who are really, really into it, and they're all being shame, Christopher, shame.
No, I met her and told her I sent that little mention to her, but we didn't get much more communication out of it, which is sad because
I mean, that's the first time I've heard of Frank Zappa acknowledging a female composer, and I think that's really super cool by itself.
Yeah. Well, leave it to Bob to bring it up many years later because he mentioned it in '69.
Right.
I mean, I saw somebody do some Looperama. Frank called all those guys Looperama music. I love that. Reich and Philip Glass and all. And I says, oh, I heard a Morton Feldman piece last night. He goes, I've heard all that stuff, which is, it is, it's amazing. Like, who's better, Steve Reich or Philip Glass?
Oh, Steve Reich for sure.
See, you just know. That's like, I love that.
I mean, we heard different trains. I mean, that would end the argument right there.
Come on, man. That's a no-brainer. Okay, a couple more on music, and then we'll go on. Name an instrumental music that makes you laugh.
Makes me laugh.
It can't be Spike Jones. Some instrumental that makes you laugh.
Envelopes makes me laugh.
That's good. Okay, so if
And when I'm writing music, if I'm laughing while I'm writing it, I definitely keep what I'm working on. I mean, that's
because,
definitely a
man,
keeper. It cracks me up. I'm like, yeah, that's funny. I'm gonna keep it.
right. And but you're saying not the words, the instrumental part of
Yeah,
it.
the instrumental part. And when Keely and
Yeah.
I worked on the Universal Provide, the same thing. If when we were working on the orchestra scores, if either of us were laughing, we kept all of that. Anything that made us laugh was like definitely staying in the score.
Wow. So if clothing is an extension of our skin, knife and fork extends our teeth, the eyelids, is extended by the shutter in a camera. What does the piano extend for you? What humanness?
My fingers, I get 88 of them instead of just 10.
That's amazing. You really got that answer. And the piano is your main instrument?
Yep.
Yeah.
Trumpet's my secondary, but a lot of the Zappa cover band stuff, they need trumpet more than they need piano. So I'm always happy to play the trumpet.
Wow. So I spoke with this filmmaker about 30 years ago, Michael Apted, and I asked him, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? You know, it was actually Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 22, but it really flourished in that MTV period about 40 years ago. In fact, Marty Scorsese said he edits his films faster because of MTV when it came out. And Michael says, well, we've learned to take in information faster. I asked this question with a bias. Can we indeed learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
Honestly, it drives me crazy because a lot of times I'm looking at the artist and I want to see their eyes and think about them, and it cuts away right away. And I'm like, no, I'm still looking at that person. I want to see the person, you know?
Right. But that's your aesthetic. Can humans do what Michael said, learn to take in information faster?
Humans can learn to do almost anything with exposure and time.
Is it literally possible to multitask?
You know, I've been focused on single tasking lately. I'll tell you, my life is a lot less stressful.
Wow. What do you think the motive of the cave artist was? Not what the anthropologists or Herzog or whoever says, just your intuitive guess.
Sorry, what?
What was the motive of the cave artist?
To tell the story of their people, I think. And I think that the idea that we want our stories to live on is sort of been hardwired into us since we were first human.
Yeah.
Our
Chris, what's
warnings. Oh shit! This is the cave with the giant death serpent.
yeah. Warning too. That's good. Yeah. Tell stories and warning. And then I was going to ask, is storytelling hardwired? And you just anticipated it. Boom. You moved us along. You're moving this along good, Chris. Okay. Of course it's both and it depends, but what's more important, conviction or compromise?
I'm gonna say compromise only because I think conviction is getting too much credit these days.
Again, there's no right or wrong answers. That one you got right. Thank you. You've accomplished a lot in your life. Name these three elements and what played the biggest role, second and third: luck, skill, and ambition.
I think skill, ambition, and then luck.
Wow, skill, ambition, luck. Very good. Is loyalty based on reason?
Yes, it's usually in your best interest to be loyal.
T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. I like that you brought up poetry with your students. What language is your inner dialogue in?
English.
What form is your inner consciousness in?
Form. I don't know, but life's in ternary form. You start from nothing, and then that's the A section, and then your B section is like you're alive, you're doing some cool stuff, and then you die. It's A prime. So you don't exist, you do stuff, and then you're dead. So that's A B A form.
ABA. Where'd you get that one from?
From one of my composition professors, who probably got it from somewhere else. It's probably just one of those things that's been around.
Right.
Not to put anyone down.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
Don't know. Really don't know.
Can you forget to die?
That'd be a really good ability.
That's a good answer. So, my friend started a film festival 59 years ago. It's still going on, Ann Arbor Film Festival. It's celebrating its 59th year next week. And his mantra was ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas, another great experimental filmmaker, says there is no self-expression, but it was the great Cecil Taylor said, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. So of course, again, it's depends, and it's, and you got to put it in context and all that. And it's a little bit of both, but is art making, music making more self-expression or more just vehicle for whatever dominant technology or culture is present?
That's an amazing question. Let me think about that. I think that when I'm making music personally, that if I'm fully present, or if, I mean, I don't know how to describe this. If you're quiet enough, you can get a lot of information, right? You have enough focus, right? So the notes come from somewhere. You know what I mean? Like I'm making choices, but the kind of combination of those choices are all kind of like, probabilistic, right? Like the odds of you picking certain notes are more probable than me picking other notes, just as an example.
Yeah, that brings up a lot of things because, you know, it's a little difficult because people want to think, well, now let me follow it up with this and then I'll talk. Can art making or music making be egoless?
On rare occasions.
Wow. So, some people want to say, well, no, I'm putting myself, like you asked a good question there. You said, where did the notes come from? Well, the person would go, well, from my head or from something. But here's the example I like to give is, well, one is Duke Ellington's sitting in New York and he hears the train go by and he writes, take the air train, because of the train, that's where did the notes come from? Well, even better is one of James Brown's drummers lived in Ohio, and one side of his house was a factory and the other side was a train. So, I mean, he basically invented funk drumming because it was like, pss, poop, pss, poop, and he blended the two. Or who else did that funny blending was Charles Ives. The
Oh
story.
yeah.
He's sitting in the church and he hears the marching band. That's what Bella Fleck told me, the same thing. He said, I was in my room listening to Doc Watson and my brother was listening to Return to Forever. And I stood in the hallway and go, wow, how could I blend these?
That's awesome.
But I got on a divert, but it's basically that drummer created funk drumming from the technologies in the air. That's where did the notes come from? But I mean, still, he was discerning which ones to take. But no, is he just a vehicle like Cecil? And he's just like, whew, it just comes through him?
Well, everyone is a product of their time, place, and space. No matter how much you want to ignore that, even if you're attempting to circumvent it on purpose, you're still circumventing your time, place, and space. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But circumvent the non-purpose. What does that mean?
So some people insist that they come from a magical place where there's no influence. And I would argue that even if you recognize your influence, trying to work against it, that tension is still the backdrop of your story. You know what I mean?
That's
Like
good
if I
because
said no music is good except for Beethoven, fuck everything else but Beethoven, I'm still reacting to my own time, place, and space. I'm pulling myself out of time.
yeah, that's interesting. Because that it's a trick question. Can art making be egoless? 8% say no, ego's involved. A couple people go, that's what good art is. It's egoless because so many people are listening. Now, you said rarely. At least you acknowledge that it can, because people think, no, you have to have ego to make art. The Balinese, one of McLuhan's favorite lines is, the Balinese have no word for art. They do everything as well as they can.
Oh, I wish everybody did everything as well as they could. Imagine what a world it would be if we did that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they don't go, whoa, I'm going to make music now. They just make it, and then there's no, like, it's sort of like how kids make art. They don't make it for, hey, Dad, I'm doing this so you could put it on the refrigerator art gallery and show me off. They're just, it's sort of like going back, Chris, what you said earlier. You said, why do you make music? And you go, I have to. Well, explain that. What do you mean you have to? Music has a gun up to your head and you're like, you better do this. Like, I don't quite get what you meant by that.
I just mean that I can't imagine not doing it. It's so ingrained in my psyche that I can't imagine.
Right.
I would. I mean, in the pandemic, I haven't practiced that much because I've been taking care of my children most of the time at their home. And it bugs me, and I'm like, I can't wait to just practice. You know what I mean? Like, I feel disconnected from the piano in a way that I don't normally. Like, I'm still writing a lot of music, doing commissions, but it's mostly intellectual. I use my brain more than my fingers. You know what I mean? But I can't wait to reconnect my fingers to my piano.
That's amazing. It's intellectual. Like, how do you write music intellectual or feeling based? How can you separate that? You can't really, can you?
Yeah, it's really hard for me to be feeling based if I am not playing.
Yeah. It's like Frank making fun of guitarists looking up to the sky when they're playing their notes. I'm really feeling this note.
I mean, when I see young musicians on YouTube and I just wonder, like, they practice the music face, because I don't really think I have good music face. I think I'm just playing my thing and I'm cool. But they're all like, they do like reaction videos, and I'm like, wow, none of my training taught me to make reaction videos on YouTube.
Music face. I thought you said music phase, PHASE.
Oh no, it's definitely FACE.
Face. That's good. They learn how to make music face. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is an amazing phenomenon how MTV changed things, and Frank was around when it was being changed, because you had to look good, and you had to have music face, and we grew up where we could put the visual to the music ourselves in our heads, So, I mean, somewhat, but there is a little different to that. So how has composing and playing music, how many years you been doing it about?
I've been playing since I was 8, so 20, 30, 32, 36 years. And I've been composing since I was about 15, so about 30 years. Or I guess less than 30, 27 years.
Yeah, 33 to 4 decades you've been involved in music. How has it shaped your behavior?
I'm probably a much nicer, gentler, calmer person than I would be if I was not a musician.
Wow.
Right? I mean, in order to succeed as a musician, you have to be able to work with other people.
It's the collaborative thing.
Yeah, people are my opponents. Like, I think like in business, you have other people who are your opponents a lot of the time, right? But in music, everyone's my friend,
Wow, that's a good answer. So tell me one major element that stayed the same in these 3-4 decades, and one major element that's changed.
The love is still there. I still try to approach things as if they're new. So I always try to have like a beginner's mindset and try to be open to ideas and not close myself off. But I think the thing that has changed is that, I've heard tens of thousands of pieces of music, and I've studied closely hundreds and hundreds of pieces, and that, my skill set is just so much better. So I'm not trying to sound like an arrogant jerk. I'm just trying to say, like, I studied hard and now I have a giant toolbox of tools that I could use to write music.
Yeah. Skill set. That's amazing. Yeah. Is perception reality?
To you.
So McLuhan probed Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce that artists dream awake. We all have creative powers we use to dream while we're sleeping. It's not being elitist, but artists can also dream while they're awake. Can you talk about dreams in your creative process?
I wrote a piece recently for the New Jersey Percussion Ensemble where I had a dream. The dream was I got up in the middle of the night and wrote this piece. And it was really strange because it was supposed to be a quartet. And instead of writing like a quartet where the players play together, I had them all play one at a time, the same melody on different instruments, or the same verse, same rhythm, but different timbre because they have different percussion instruments, you know. And then I had a fifth ghost player who played nothing, and then that was the end of the piece. And then I woke up and I was like, wow, what a funny dream. And I was thinking about Johnny Appleseed and all this stuff. But a few days later, I went back to work on the piece. I opened up the computer, and the piece was there. The score was there. Like it wasn't a dream that I got in the middle of the night and wrote this piece. I actually got up and wrote it, but I thought I was dreaming.
Wow. Well, that's a specific in your 3 decades. How else is dreams leaked in, or how is the music in the dream world crossed over at all?
That's tough. I mean, I think a lot about dreams. You know, sometimes you have dreams. Like one time I had like a moral quandary, and it never got resolved. Right. So you know, X happened. It never got resolved. It's one of those things in life where you just go on your way, and there's never like a point to choose. I never had a force to choose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then I had a dream where I made one choice and saw all the bad repercussions of that choice. And I woke up and I fell back asleep, and then I saw the other choice and all the bad repercussions of the other choice, and realized that not having to choose was the blessing that I got in that situation. Because either road was going to lead to a bad place.
Amazing. Yeah. That's good. Why is it so difficult for humans to consider the possibility that life may be pointless? Well, I'm not trying to say life is pointless. I'm just saying, why is it so hard for humans to consider the possibility?
There was a Spanish philosopher who once said that all art is. Oh no, I want to get this right. Hold on, I'm going to look at this quote. I have to look it up. Sorry, I like to be really precise.
No, that's great. What's his name?
I think it was Jose Ortega. Here it is. Okay, Spanish philosopher Jose Ortega would spell out some of the French modernist ideals in the 1920s in his famous 7 points. And one of them is, I'll tell you all 7, it's short. 1 is to dehumanize art. 2 is to avoid living forms. 3 is to see to it that the work of art is nothing but a work of art. 4, to consider art as play and nothing else. 5, to be essentially ironical. 6, to beware of sham and hence to aspire to scrupulous realization. And 7, to regard art as a thing of no transcending consequence.
Oh, that is deep. Can you email me that?
Yeah, sure can, no problem.
That is heavy. So what are you saying? Whatever my question was, what's the main thing? You just read it, but put it in your own words. What resonated the most for you out of those 7?
Was, you know, one way that I think I'm different from other composers. A lot of composers feel that they are this kind of elitist chosen one, and that their choices come from God or something. And I just feel like it's all a fun game, and I want to have a good time, and I want you young composers to have a good time, and I want you to see things as fun, because if you're having fun, you're gonna have a happier life, you know, than if you're like art is suffering, I'm a sufferer. Like, you know, get rid of that conceit, because all human beings suffer. All people go through periods of suffering. Like, your suffering is not unique, but your laughter might be, you know?
Really well put. I think that's why we're attracted to Frank, because he laughed and he wanted to have a good time. Because if
Yeah.
you see him on Dinah Shore, you know, he says this cutting remark, and that girl goes, the woman on the panel goes, "I'll talk to you after the show." And he goes, "Well, I'm just here to have a good time." And everyone goes, "Ah," it's like he just flips it so smart assily, but he really is
Yeah.
about having a good time. And it resonates with McLuhan and Joyce. They were about play. Play is, you know, that's why funk is my favorite genre of music, because it has the word fun is the key. Funky. It's
Wow,
right in.
nice.
Just have fun.
Humor belongs in music. I mean,
Yes, humor
Greg
belongs
taught
in
me
music.
well that way, you know?
Yeah, that is a great. Well, Chris, this is fun. Moshe Feldenkrais said that it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness that you've incorporated to become a strength.
So one thing that I wonder is throughout my career, if my career would be better if I was a raging egomaniac. I don't mean like, you know what I mean? Like if I was just more self-promoty, or more like I'm better than everybody, or you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because I see a lot of people who, people respond really well to bluster, right? So I run into
What's
these
the
people.
word? Wait, what's the word?
Bluster.
Bluster.
Yeah.
Bluster. Okay, go ahead. What is bluster?
Just I'm really confident even if I shouldn't be confident.
I got you. Okay, so continue on. They people really respond well to bluster. Go ahead.
Right, but that's not a service I provide.
Right. Right.
So I feel like that would be a weakness, that I treat everybody, as if we're all friends, we're having a good time. So I don't exclude people. Like I don't make a club to exclude anybody. I'm like, I want 10,000 composers. Let's all be composers. Come hang out and write some cool music and have a good time. If I'm more skilled than you, it's only because I've practiced more, I've read more, I'm older. That's the only difference between me and you. Like.
Right. So you say that's a weakness, but you flipped it into a strength, sort of like it sounds like what you got from your mom. You can make the world a better place.
Right. I think it's a strength because I think I am making the world a slightly teensy tiny little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
Never. I regret
Good.
I regret ever being angry. I regret the things that I've said when I was angry. I regret the things that I've done when I was angry. I wish I never felt angry. I wish that like my discipline was such that you could stab me and I would still laugh at you. But it's not even close.
This is amazing because I'm always trying to improve the questions on wording, and after about 25 years, my wife's dad, who's a social worker, wonderful human, I says, give me some hints on any of these questions, how I should reword it. That question used to be, can anger be a productive emotion? And then people would go, yes or no. So that was like, it didn't leave it room to discuss. So about every about 90% of people answer it. Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank, and they fill it in. But there's that fine percentage, like you and a few other people go, can't be, nope. So they like flip it back to like you knew my question before. Like, no, it's really a beautiful thing.
I mean, a
Okay.
lot of times people try to on TV. Like one of the things about Trump that was so impressive to people was how angry he was. That was seen as a big positive that he was so angry. But I didn't feel the same way.
Right, because anger, all it does is conflict creates anxiety, and anxiety keeps you glued to the TV set. And like, oh my God, what did he say now? Oh my God, what did he say now? And it's just that's what gets us to pay attention to all this stuff. That's all it is. You got to have this emotional roller coaster ride, and then people will consume that stuff, which is, how much do we have to know everything that's happening in the world? Well, Okay, what's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
I don't think there is a difference if you take physicality out.
Man, you really get that's an amazing answer. I love when people say that. Why do women live longer than men?
Genetics,
Yeah. What caused matriarchy?
matriarchy.
Yeah.
um, I don't even understand the question.
Well, what caused rule by women? I mean, it's a flip. What caused patriarchy? What caused rule by men? It's really, it's hard to always figure out which one to ask, but what caused matriarchy? What rule by women has happened in the past?
I guess men had the opportunity to lead, and they used it poorly and did a lot of terrible things. Had a lot of terrible secrets. Now we'll give the women a turn to have their turn. I don't. I don't. This is really awkward. I have no idea.
That was well, the funny flip is the word mafia begins with the letters M-A. That's because women run the world, but they let men think they run the world. No, I'm not saying that's true, but it is, the woman giving birth. See, what caused matriarchy and patriarchy might be biological, but
Right.
it might be cultural too. We don't know really, because the cultures early on were more peaceful, maybe because women were running stuff.
Well, I don't think the early on cultures were peaceful at all. I think that
Yeah.
the normal state of human being is war, right?
Yeah.
You don't have wars everywhere because we have giant countries that have laws and rules and stuff. But if we were all just pockets and forests, we'd all be shooting at each other all the time.
Well, how do you keep your government from going to war?
Ooh, I mean, I don't know. Do you know?
That is good. That's what you win, Chris. That's what this series is all about. Answer a question with a question. That's the Irish. They go, "Hey, I hear you Irish people answer questions with questions." They go, "We do, eh?"
I mean, I liked that what John and Yoko said about how there's a war industry and they were going to create a peace industry and promote peace to get a billboard selling peace. I thought that was a really great idea.
Oh God, she pays so much money for that ad in the New York Times every year. I love that. Just to have a, thing, whatever she says, think peace or whatever. And it's amazing. Yeah, it's horrible. But do you think the bottom line to me, I asked this a million times, is hating, the act of hating, innate in humans or invented by humans?
I think it's both. I think that it would be natural. Like if you met someone and they punched you in the face, it would be natural to hate that person. It would take real effort not to hate that person, right? But I think you'd also be taught to hate people. So
Yeah,
I would say it's both.
culturally learned. But you actually said that earlier. You says if someone hit me or shot me, I'd forgive them. What did you say? Do you
No,
remember?
I would fail. I wish my discipline was such that I could still laugh and be their friend. Um,
That was
I have to. My discipline is nowhere near that. Like that's the
uh,
ideal though. The ideal is that anyone can do anything they want to me, and I would just instantly forgive them. I would just be all loving kindness.
did you get that from the way your mom and dad raised you?
No, I got that from Thich Nhat Hanh.
Really? Wow. Because that's what someone said about John Lennon once. He says John Lennon would have forgive the guy for shooting him right away. And I think forgiveness is the key. But the dilemma is, are you James Brown? No, James Brown. Well, wait, it's yeah, James Brown said either you're MLK or you're Malcolm X. MLK would say if the guy hit you, you don't hit him back. Malcolm X says if the guy hits you, you hit him back. And
Right.
James Brown, I go the Malcolm X route. I hit him back. So I mean, it's a hard thing. But this is you create what you resist. This is an idea. One creates what one resists. It's funny because here's the hate word again. Bob Goldthwait morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He goes, thank God I'm an atheist. So just in general, how do you process this line? You create what you resist. Not you, but one creates what one resists. What do you think of that?
I'm not sure what to think of that.
Yeah. It's a little hard because it's also goes like what you resist persists. You know, Frank was like that too.
I
He
mean,
was,
that I think is true.
yeah.
I resist dieting, so the need for dieting persists.
That's funny because when I said it to you are what you hate, someone goes, I hate chocolate milk, so I'm chocolate milk. So you know they were thinking literal, but it is funny because Frank brought up he's like Louis Buñuel. He's always bringing up God. Like, did you see that rare clip of him singing the sausage song "Slosh" in Joe's garage? In
No.
It's a funny little clip, and the engineer hits stop, and he goes, "Why'd you hit stop?" I was laughing. He's going, "Well, you were laughing." He goes, "Well, I laugh about once a year." and then he goes, God didn't want it in there anyways. I mean, Frank says that. He goes, you Hollywood engineers, God didn't want that take to be taped anyways. So you know, and in the way he shoots in all the God stuff, you know, constantly. But he's like Buñuel, it's their fodder. It's like what they're resisting is what they are, you know,
What
in a
drives
way, what drives them. Yeah. So how do you find peace of mind?
Meditation practice.
Yeah. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
You are not going to believe what I'm about to tell you, but you just go on doing what you're doing.
Yeah, but you mean you would stop there or you would tell them
I mean,
more?
even like 10 years ago, I mean, the things that have happened in the last 10 years would all just sound totally impossible 10 years ago.
Right.
You know, I don't know
But
if it's like that for you too, but
you mean for the better.
yeah, for the better, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll? Over or under?
I don't care.
That is good. This is Alfred North Whitehead. He said, the silly question is the first intimation of some totally new development. The guy who invented toilet paper has it going over like 100 years ago.
No,
But
but
90,
I want to show my T-shirt though, just so people don't think that my T-shirt is an owl that says "whom,"
whom?
because
Oh,
that
well,
is the correct that's the correct word.
well, that's funny because there are 5 W words. And you sort of answered it, but what's your favorite W word? Who, what, why, when, or where?
I think "why" is the most interesting.
Why is the one most people say? Thomas Nordegg said, when.
Yeah, when life gets tough, Thomas Nordic, just one word, time speed. You know,
Time
a lot of
speed.
the problems in my life I could solve by just going into time speed. Like, okay, I'm in time speed mode now. I'm working really hard. I'm working around the clock. All right, I'm done. Time speed over. But that one word is like a mantra. You know, when you need it, time speed is there for you.
What does it mean? I'm not sure. Tell me.
I believe that Thomas just believes that he wants to do things as quickly and efficiently as possible, always.
Oh, quickly and efficiently.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you're doing it inefficiently, it's not quick at all. You wind up redoing it and wasting a lot of time. So you want to do it the first
Right.
time.
You gotta blend the two. That's funny because I worked with an art gallery and it was called Sponto. So it was combining spontaneity and pronto.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's funny. You know, I interviewed Thomas with all these questions just about 3 weeks ago, and we didn't define time speed. That's
Wow.
funny. That was good. It took Chris to bring it up. My favorite Thomas Nordegg is he works for Yngwie. He's on the edge of the stage playing guitar. He literally takes the guitar and throws it almost backstage, and Thomas goes womp and catches it.
So one time I was hanging out with Steve Vai, and I tried. I don't know if I should admit this. I was trying to get him to say something bad about anybody. I was trying to see if he'll say anything bad about anybody. So he would deflect, or you know what I mean. And then I got to Yngwie, and I was like, what about Yngwie just throwing his guitar out? Right, because we do it every show. And that guy whose job was to catch the guitar. I'm like, how stressful is that for that guy to catch the guitar? And the student goes, oh, that poor guy. And that was the closest I got to getting students.
That's good. Oh, that poor guy, Thomas. Like, Chris, if a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Let's have a good time.
What they want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell would it be?
Lavender.
Oh my God, that's the same answer I got yesterday. That is a popular smell. I like it. Lavender is good. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed, and what would it be made of?
I think Clifton Main Memorial Park in my hometown, in the big park in our hometown. And I guess we made of marble. That's normally made of. I don't know.
That's good. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Wait, something good I never had and I also don't want it?
Yep.
I guess meeting Frank Zappa, right? It was never possible. So.
Right. It's good. You never had it and you never want it because, well, that's like Bob Marshall had this great idea, which is if you believe in life after death, Frank goes to heaven and he knocks on Edgar Varèse's door. And he goes, so, dude, what do you think of my music? Now, Edgar could possibly say three things. Get away from me, you little punk. You ripped me off. 2, you're pretty good. Or 3, you suck. That, and then the third one would be, sit down, let's talk. So yeah, that's a good. What question? If you could ask Frank a question, what would it be?
I would want to listen. But the question would be like, what can you tell me right now that I'll never forget?
Oh wow!
And one time I had a dream about. One time I was having a hard time, and I had a dream about Frank, and it was. I know it was a dream, and it's not real, But he was like, sit down, tell me what's up. So I'm like, blah blah blah, Frank, blah blah blah, and he goes, well, don't let those assholes turn you into one.
Oh, that is good. That's really beautiful.
But that's just a nice dream. It's not, I'm not deluded to thinking that, I conjure up Frank in my dreams, like,
Yeah. It's almost, I was sitting at Thomas Nordegg's during a video shoot with Frank, and K-Rock, the commercial rock station, was on the radio in the background. And I said, that will turn you into a normal person. And Frank went, not me. Is that a great answer or what?
That's great.
Not me, sorry.
I mean, I feel so lucky I get to talk to so many people who knew Frank and can tell me stories about him. It's so awesome.
Yeah, well, I think Frank forgot to die. He lives on. I mean, it's not like, So if you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Definitely duck.
Definitely duck. John Cage talks about the function of music. But first of all, before I say his, what do you think the function of music is?
I think it's a method of storytelling, ultimately, even if it's instrumental.
Right. His was interesting. He said the function of music was to sober and quiet the mind, thus rendering it susceptible to divine influences.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stay away from music makes you see God. Like, I think that line of thinking has caused a lot of problems.
Yeah, but you know, again, divine influences could just mean higher consciousness influences.
Or the muses or something like that. Sure.
Yeah, or the muses, yeah. Because that's where the word muse came from, right? Muse.
Right.
Yeah. But you know, I love that TV show where that guy drives around in the car and plays the hits with the hit maker and they sing together. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
that's
yeah. James Corden's like taxi karaoke or something.
karaoke is, you know, that to me, we got to do one of Frank, you know, just act it out. That would be
Oh
so,
wow. Oh
because
man.
he'd go like this. No, let's do penis dimension. You know, he wouldn't necessarily, you know, like dead air. Let's do dead air. But I love it because Britney Spears is there and she's he goes, you know, they sing the song together and she really gets into it. It's amazing because she's got to sing the same song for so many years. And then he goes, well, what does that song mean? And she goes, it's only a song. You know, he wants to read into it deeply. And it was so cool how, you know, some songs could be that way. You know,
Right.
this in some songs could have deeper meaning. So, you know, it's like psychoanalyzing the intention is often interesting because, you know, just think of Frank. Why did you write songs? Well, he wrote an anti-union song. That's and an anti-Jesse Jackson song. You talk to progressive lefties, man, they don't like that. And it's like, no, he was a satirist. He was trying to raise issues so you would think about him.
I
You
mean,
know,
he taught me a lot as a kid. I just thank the, there was so much anti-drug stuff in Frank's music. There was no fucking way I was going to do any of it.
yeah.
You
Well,
know what I mean?
that's
Like, you take cocaine, you turn into a clown. Like, are you die or are you make terrible decisions? Or you know what I mean?
yeah.
Or there was never a portrayal. Or like, I'm still in the room in 200 motels. Like, the dangers of alcoholism was just like, I didn't want Frank to think I was an asshole, so I'm not doing any of these things. Like,
Yeah. No, it's really good because he was, you know, he said on that Dinah Shore show, I'm a journal, I'm an investigative journalist. Like, you know, and I'm just sort of saying how it is, and then you can process it as you will. You know,
right,
this kid came up to me at a Zappa concert once, and he says, when Frank says, I take a lump of grass, he says that's about pot. And I goes, no, it isn't. But the thing is once the artist makes their art, it's no longer theirs. The user can
right,
use it any way they want, you know.
right.
So these are 5 Alan Watts questions. They're just short and quick. So just off the top of your head, you don't have to overthink them, but just, you know, 3 to 5 words. Who started it all?
Caveman.
Are we going to make it?
Yes.
Where do we put it?
On another planet.
Who's cleaning it up?
They're not.
Wow, is it serious?
I hope not.
That's good. Well, this has really been fun. I'm going to ask you one more, and then we'll bring Clinton on if he wants to ask you a couple questions. And here it goes. This is, and then I'll come back with 2 last questions. Chris, this has been delightful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is my favorite interview I've ever done in my whole life. This is the best.
Oh, this is fun. Joseph Boyce says, make the secrets productive. Lou Welsh, beat poet and ad man, says, guard the secrets, but constantly reveal them. But Thornton Wilder in 1928 nailed it. He says, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for the last 80 minutes. What's it really all about for you, Chris?
Trying to live the best life I can and trying to be a good friend and a good professor and a good father and all those, trying to do good, trying to do good things.
Yeah, beautiful. Clinton, are you there? You want to ask one? Yay! Thanks for facilitating us.
Hey
Uh-oh.
guys, happy to be here and
Oh,
excellent
thank
interview.
you, Clinton. That was a real help, man.
Of course, of course. No, Chris, thanks for coming on the channel, and I really got a lot out of that little bit you said about YouTube performers putting on a face when they're playing music, as though they're not just right. You're playing the music, you're performing through the music, but then nowadays you got a camera in your face. It's not just that. You got this MTV. You're an icon at the same time. You got to practice your guitar solo face, thinking a stupid face, right? So
Right.
that performative element. How much of music is out of body, and how much of music is do you think for you or for other people like a full embodied experience where you know that it's you doing it? That's the important part.
Are you a performer?
I'm a karaoke performer, so yes, I'm just like you. We're at the same level. Absolutely.
But in all sincerity, when you're singing karaoke, how do you feel about your body?
I feel like people are watching me, so my voice is also garbage. So actually, karaoke's more about my performance than the actual music itself. So we're at completely the opposite ends of the spectrum here, to be honest. That's kind of what keeps me
I think it's a level that's appropriate for you. I think I like to just kind of bob my head around and play. You know what I mean? And other people really like Steve Vai has the fan blowing his hair and he's doing the whole thing. Like that's not me, but that's cool that that's him. You know?
Yeah, it's interesting how multimedia has made music for some people so much more about the music. Is that a compromise?
Yeah, I don't know, but people really seem to spend a lot of time looking at their cameras, being like, wow, check it out, wow. You know what I mean? Like, and I just I never got that class. I'm like, I should take that class, the camera face class. You know?
Well, if like you think about it, like rock and roll got huge in the 60s and 70s, and then everyone was like air guitaring, and then lots of people wanted to be guitarists. Some of them because they love the music, some of them because they love the icon of the guitarist who's performing like through the gesture and whatnot. Did video kill the radio star?
No.
Did video mortally wound the radio star and he's still limping around?
Good.
Oh man, what is the movie I saw the other day? I saw Sunset Boulevard a couple weeks ago. I guess it was that movie about the we've always gone full circle, right? Because when film first came out, your ability to convey all your emotions through your face and your facial gestures was like the important thing of your performance. And now we've come back to that, right? So first it was visual, then it was sound, now it's sound, now it's become visual again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dreams, waking. So you literally woke up and you thought you had dreamed writing music, and then you went to your computer and there was music on your computer you had written that night before.
Yeah, that I dreamt. Yeah, I had a dream that I wrote music on my computer, but it wasn't a dream. I actually did get up and write the music.
That's hilarious. I don't have a question. That's just funny. Your relation to it's really interesting the way that several times through the interview it's come up where you're talking about like the narcissism or the grandiosity and like the religious language behind composers in your case who are so full of themselves that they're going to use like I think you
Like
said
God spoke to me.
yeah, the elitist chosen one sort of mentality. Like how could you just expand on that? Like what's up with these guys? They're all guys, I'm just assuming. What's up with them?
They are all guys. I think what's up with them is that they want to believe that they're special. They're specially chosen. That they're endowed. They're brought by providence, and they're not really seeing that they're just making music. I mean, I'm trying to like bring it. I'm a professor. I teach young composers. It's really important to me that they know that I'm just a guy who's trying to write the best music I can today, and tomorrow I'll try again to write the best music I can the next day.
I'm sure like
You know?
it must be something to do with the reaction of listeners or of an audience. If you got like on tap, you've got these groupies who are like, "You're the best ever. That was the most awesome ever." Like it's got to be what gets to your head, right? So how do
Right.
you manage? I'm sure you must get ecstatic reactions sometimes if
Oh yeah.
you've got a particularly good piece. So how do you manage to not let it get to your head?
Well, I've lost enough times. I've done enough gigs where I played for 8 people who wouldn't shut the fuck up while I was playing. you know,
Mhm.
I did not live the charmed life where everything I did was gold and magic. So I guess it makes
Mhm.
you appreciate the days you win. by having days when you lose, you know?
Awesome. Awesome.
That was great, Clinton, because that's sort of the theme of Finnegan's Wake. We fall and then we rise. We fall and rise. And it's how you balance and navigate that. And when those 8 people were talking, one of them might have had a transcendental experience that you didn't recognize, and it hit him later. And we think, oh, you're not supposed to talk during music. But there's it reminded me the beginning of this 2 things, Clinton. Really good point you brought up was Clinton said, well, my voice is garbage. And one of Frank's favorite bands was the Shags, which is, like the worst band in the history of the world. But they're amazing in their sensibility. And you could say, well, their voices are garbage, but they've gotten this acclaim for years, and I believe rightfully so. Some people go, I don't get them, but there's something about the sincerity and the innocence of it. So like karaoke for you is they're trying, they know that your voice might be off, and that might be part of them appreciating your music even more, that you're saying, but in essence, they're there to see the performance. So when he asked you about performance, I was wondering, the in body or out of body, do you find music can help you transcend the body? I thought that's what he was.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like you get out of your body and you're in this other, what do you call it? Metaphysical or nonverbal state or whatever you call it.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I guess, one time I was playing with Keneally, and he had me playing keyboards. I didn't know the song. That was, but like I was just getting the information from somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was just concentrating up, and I was playing things I normally wouldn't play, and I was stretching out. But like, I don't know how to describe it. But sometimes you get out of the way of the music, and then the music will still come to you. Like.
Yeah. That's that egoless thing. Like how. But you brought up Sunset Boulevard, the Billy Wilder film. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, 1952 or something. Yeah, what an amazing film.
Oh, amazing film. And, we were studying Max Steiner the other day because I'm studying movie music a lot. And these people, like Betty Davis said, I don't want Max Steiner following me up the stairs in the shot. Well, she's just the actor. She goes, I want to show off my acting chops. I don't want the music to enhance me and make me better, but she didn't have a choice. And I learned this term, which I thought, how could I not know that? And I was curious if you could explain it. Diegetic music and non-diegetic music. Do you know about this? Like, Chris, do you know what the difference is?
You know what? I don't remember. I remember I've heard this phrase before.
It goes like this. It's something, and it's about narrative too. It's if me and you and Clinton are in a movie and some soundtrack is playing in the background, that's just the music. Then that's either diegetic or not diegetic. I don't know which applies. But then if we're all playing an instrument now, Clinton singing and I'm playing kazoo and you're playing piano, then that music is real. It's not the background music.
Like, is it happening for the characters to experience in the film?
Yeah.
Guys, in diegetic music, we're playing instruments, non-diegetic is in the background. Got it.
Yeah, non is background. Yeah. Yeah. And it was weird that I did not know that, because you don't really, it's an important factor in watching a movie, because you want to know how much this soundtrack is manipulating you and your feelings, when it's, the history of cinema is so much just filming plays anyways. So why divert? Go ahead, Chris.
One thing I thought was interesting, I watched the documentary about George Burns, right? That's the one who lived to be 100. He was in Oh God and stuff.
Yeah.
He had a TV show, and it's a lot of drama when you replace an actor on a TV show, like a ton of drama. He replaced an actor, and just goes to the screen and goes, okay, well, this part's being played by this person now, as if it's the most natural thing in the world, because in plays, you have all kinds of people play that character. And so it wasn't a big deal back in 1948 or whatever. You were just like, okay, this person's probably play this guy now, and we go on, and then the show just went on.
Bewitched had 2 Darrens. Doctor Who had like 10, 11 Doctor Who's, etc. Right? James Bond. How many James Bonds have there been? Right? There's all after facts. That's funny though. what was the show called? I'm just curious because I'm a nerd for that.
Oh, I don't know. I was a documentary I saw on Amazon. I watch a lot of random stuff. I have a baby
cool.
at home, so I watch a lot of TV all day.
Well, you can explore the mysteries of how music is used constantly,
Yeah.
so many ways. So we're going to close out now with 2 questions. Thank you again, Clinton, and thank you, Chris. This has been so
I
much
love
fun.
being here. Thank you so much. So nice to hang out. I love after last time we hung out, I got Finnegan's Wake, and every time I had a question, I would consult it like an oracle. Like you said, they could just open Finnegan's Wake
Good.
and point to a paragraph and just think about it. And I did that like probably like 50 times.
Oh, that is so cool because it really is been amazing with the COVID causing the Finnegan's Wake reading clubs to now I read with the Austin Finnegan's Wake reading club and they're way better than mine. And it really helped me, and it's an amazing thing. So what's the healthiest cultural shift you see developing today, Chris?
I think a push towards people eating more fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
And less meat.
Yep. And then what gives you the most optimism?
My students.
Yeah. We get the youth, the young, children, students all the time. That's super cool. We got to pass it on and we got to nourish it. And I will thank you now, Chris, and thank you, Clinton. This has really been fun.
Thank you. It's so great to see you. Thanks